Short, long, tight, loose, kinky, or coily, our natural curls come in all sorts of amazing shapes, sizes, and lengths. Whether it's your grandma, your sister, your friend, or your boyfriend, every curly head out there deserves to have each and every one of their follicles pop severely, or at the very least know how to do so if they want to. But with all the different products, tutorials, and styling options out there, where do you even start to give the gift of severe curl poppage to even a couple of your little lost curls? Well, that's exactly where hair typing comes into play, so you can rest assured that all your confusion and the answer to it is all in, or rather on, your head. So if you've done even the tiniest bit of research into natural hair and natural hair related things, then you've most likely come across the term hair typing, especially if you look at natural hair on Instagram. You know the comments. Not ringing any bells? Well, allow me. On the Instagram account for this YouTube channel, at The College Curls, I post the poppin' curly hair pics that are sent to me by all of you in the College Curls family. And everybody shows you love with hundreds, sometimes thousands of likes and comments. Now, here are some comments from our Instagram page referencing hair typing. Amazing. 4C is amazing. 4B, 4A, I did a twist out. One of the best afros. You can shape it how you want and do a lot of pretty hairstyles with it. Short 4C is honestly one of the prettiest hair I've seen in my entire life. Starting to sound familiar? Yes? Or I know you've definitely seen one similar to these. What's her hair type? Hair type? What hair type is this? What's her hair type? What hair type is this? I have the exact same. Love it. What's your hair type? Welp, ladies and gents, all these strange letter number combos and more make up the heart and soul of the most widely known hair typing system in the natural hair community to date, Andre Walker's hair typing system. That's right, because you see, while it may sound all scientific and confusing, all hair typing really is categorizing and classifying your curls according to different characteristics like their circumference, how wide it is, your natural curl definition, and texture, which is the thickness of an individual strand. Now, while the hair typing system that I'll be talking about in this video is the more well-known Andre Walker 3-number 4-letter system, it's also important that you know that this isn't the only hair typing system out there, which is awesome because it means you don't have to listen to the way one rando person decided to categorize your curls. Different systems will focus more on different characteristics, so depending on which ones matter the most to you, or if you have a hard time figuring out some characteristics about your curls, you can decide you prefer one system over another, compare your strands across different ones, or decide you don't even need hair typing altogether. Any and all of these options are totally fine, but there are some key benefits of hair typing your curls. So if you are interested in learning about one such system, we're going to get into the ins and outs of Andre Walker's universal technique right now, starting with who Andre Walker is, a quick explanation of how the system works, and then a rundown of the different hair types in it so you can finally understand what all this 4C and 3B stuff really means. So, who is this man who's created the most well-known hair typing system to date? Chicago native Andre Walker is a renowned hairstylist in these United States whose many accomplishments include winning 7 Daytime Emmy Awards for outstanding achievement in hairstyling for his work on the show of his most frequent and notable client, Oprah Winfrey. Aside from being Oprah's personal hairstylist for many years, other famed clients of his have included Barbara Bush, Halle Berry, and Michelle Obama. So yeah, definitely a pretty accomplished guy for sure, but what led him to make an entire system where he tried to categorize every curl possible? Well, to be honest, he really created it as a way to help market his line of hair care products he came out with in the 90s by showing exactly which hair types would benefit from it. But somehow along the way, it became adopted by the natural hair community as a relatively simple guide to understanding our curls and the different curl patterns that can be on one head. And yes, I said curl patterns with a S because chances are you don't have the same one all over your head, and knowing this can help you determine how your hair will react in different weather, help you choose better styling options, and of course, help you choose better products to have your curls popping on the daily. Might be a little useful, right? Then let's get into how Andre Walker made the system work right now. So with this particular system, it uses a combination of the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the letters A, B, and C to signify how tight the curl pattern is. The numbers represent the main categories, 1 for straight, 2 for wavy, 3 for curly, and 4 for kinky, and the letters are then used with the numbers to indicate how tight the curl is within each category, with A being the loosest, C being the tightest, and B falling in the middle. So through the 10 different letter number pairings this would create, ideally they would cover all the different types of curls out there and, most importantly, provide you with a relatively simple breakdown of different curl patterns so you can more easily identify and care for your own. Now, if you've somehow done the math in the last 5 seconds for the 10 total combos I said could be created in this system, and you're waiting to leave a comment like, oh my God, she can't even count, because 4 numbers times 3 letters equals 12 different combos, right? Well, normally yes. But there's a few combos missing from this hair typing system. Why? Well, we're about to get into all the deets of the different types right now. Starting with type 1 hair, this simply consists of the different straight hair types. On a majority of natural hair sites, you'll find that the type 1 category doesn't have any letter subcategories like 1A, 1B, or 1C, since the difference between them is so subtle and this type doesn't pertain to the natural hair community anyway. But are those subcategories of 1A, 1B, and 1C out there? Yes. The official Andre Walker hair typing system chart gives a description of each of these, and in some natural hair resources, you can even find pictures that attempt to show the differences between them. But for the purposes of this video and staying focused on curly hair patterns, I won't get into the different subcategories of this type and will simply refer to all straight hair as type 1. Moving on to type 2 hair, this is the wavy hair category. While this type also isn't typically deemed as being natural curly hair either, since there are more noticeable differences between 2A, 2B, and 2C, we'll go into more detail on this one. The main thing to keep in mind when trying to differentiate between 2A, 2B, and 2C is where the wave starts and how defined it is. Type 2A hair would be the loosest wave in this category, with straight roots and a fine, thin texture. Type 2B is mostly straight at the root still, but has some frizziness because of its medium texture. Its wave shape is more defined than 2A, with most of the definition being around the middle of the strand on towards the ends. Finishing off the category, type 2C hair has the most defined wave yet, with the shape starting at the root and continuing right down through to the ends. This type is also usually thicker and coarser, which tends to result in more frizz all over the head. On to type 3 hair, the first in the system of textures most usually seen in the natural hair community. This is commonly called the curly category, and the important thing to keep in mind when trying to determine if your strands are 3A, 3B, or 3C is their circumference, or how wide a single ringlet of your curls is. Confused? Look, well, let's start with 3A. Being the first combo in this category, 3A curls tend to have the most shine and are the biggest and loosest, so they would have the widest circumference. Think mattress box spring or toy slinky, but smaller scale. 3B curls, on the other hand, are a tighter loose curl, if that makes sense. So think corkscrew you use to open a wine bottle, but the size of a marker. Curls of this type usually vary in how wide they are all over your head. So you may have some Expo marker-sized ringlets in one place, some Sharpie marker-sized ones in another, or your average color marker-sized ones somewhere else. Either way, if they're around the size of an average marker, you're dealing with 3B. Another key defining factor, these curls are a little more coarse and dense than 3A ones, meaning not only are your individual strands thick, but you also have a bunch of strands all over your head, making all your hair look thick. Moving on to 3C curls, I would call this the final combo in this category, but this type actually isn't in the original Andre Walker hair typing system. Remember earlier the whole 4 number times 3 letter equaling 10 instead of 12 thing? This is where that first missing combo comes into play. Type 3C was actually created by a curly girl who felt like this type was curiously left out, as there are curls out there tighter than 3A and 3B, but not quite 4A. Today, this hair type is widely accepted as an addition to the system in modified versions. That being said, 3C curls are the tightest and the most dense, causing this type to experience both the most volume and the most shrinkage, and to sometimes be called coily curly. So imagine the marker-sized corkscrew 3B curls, but shrunk to the size of a pencil or a straw. And this leads us to our last, but absolutely not least category in Andre Walker's hair typing system, type 4 hair. Commonly called the coily category because the hair is coiled from root to tip, Type 4 hair is the hair type seen most often in the Black community. Now, when it comes to trying to see if your own curls are a 4A, 4B, or 4C pattern, it can be a little tricky since all of these hair types are typically very dense, so it can be hard to see how one individual strand curls on its own. So if you think you might be in this category, to make things easier, you can look at strands that have already come out your head, because the important thing to look for when spotting the differences in this category are the shape of an individual strand and how tightly curled it is. So, for example, starting with 4A hair, this type has a very visible tightly coiled S curl pattern, especially when stretched, with the width of a single coil being about that of a crochet needle or a metal tooth from an Afro pick. Type 4B hair is a less defined and tighter curl than the one before it, and it's also distinctive by how the hair bends instead of really curling or coiling into a bunch of little Z shapes. So picture a strand with a lot of hard angles in it that jut out at about the same width as a 4A curl. And this brings us to the second hair type that was not in the original Andre Walker hair typing system, 4C hair. This type is also believed to have been created by a curly girl looking to provide more categories to help better classify tighter curls. That being said, 4C hair is similar to 4B in that it's very densely packed, but it has even less definition and experiences more shrinkage. So imagine the 4B strand from before, but shrunk by about 50%, making the hair appear shorter and less defined. And that's pretty much a 4C curl. And that pretty much sums it up on hair typing and Andre Walker's hair typing system, plus the modified version of the system thanks to a couple of helpful curlies. Now I want to hear from you. Have you typed your hair according to this system? Did you find it helpful in getting to know your curls better? And of course, feel free to rep your type in the comments below and give your tips and tricks on how you handle your curls. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video. Hit it even if you didn't. Leave a comment down in the comment box below and make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.